All right. Welcome to the Real Estate Block Podcast, where we bring on the guests and ask them the hard questions by taking a deep dive into their how they built their teams, marketing strategies, systems and processes, and how they built a machine that spits out consistent deal flow month after month. Well, the value given during the show will help you find and create consistent deal flow. Today, I have a good friend of mine, Brandon, and he is. I'm going to let him tell you what you do, man. Brandon, thanks so much for hopping on. You're a super busy guy, so I'm super humbled to have you on here. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just say thank you first off, Aaron. I'm super excited to be on this podcast. I know you've been doing this for a while, so I'm honored that you consider me for this. So, a little background for everybody. I'm probably the weird one on this podcast because I'm not the real estate investor. I'm the marketing guy, and if you guys want to throw rotten tomatoes at me or whatever you do to marketing people, then do it. But what I focus on is helping investors find deals, and there's a few channels that we do that through, and it's all going to revolve around online marketing channels like PPC, Facebook ads, SEO. Right now, my company Bateman Collective partners with about 150 real estate investors across the country, and from our leads that we generated for those clients, we tracked about $50 million worth of wholesale assignment fees last year, and we're hoping to blow that out of the water this year.
Oh man, no, that's incredible. A big place that we all heard you from is the other podcast, Real Estate Disruptors. Great podcast. Something I listen to all the time. And if you haven't a chance, go check your two. I think you have like 2 or 3 podcasts up there now. There you really give out so much information. Kind of what I want to have you on here for is really just for us to basically catch up. I am a client of yours, and your business and the way you handle and provide service to us have definitely changed the way we do business, and for the better. Especially when we saw that correction last year by switching from outbound marketing to inbound marketing. And another thing that I've seen is if you just go down YouTube University, everybody's shouting out Brandon Bateman Collective. So I think it's really cool to be able to know you personally, because you do have, you basically add so much value to others. And one thing why we have chosen you for our inbound marketing source is because kind of what we talked about before we got hopped on here is that you focus on one thing, right? You make sure you perfect that one thing. So it's not like you're running this inbound marketing channel company and also doing a real estate company and doing other types of things. You're so dialed in, so all the changes that come along our way. So the moment that, and it's like it makes me feel so secure and safe with my marketing to put in your guys' hands. So instead of me going on and doing it myself, and I'm sure you have a lot of clients testimonials that have gone done themselves, I have put so much faith and trust in you guys to be able to know that if anything changes, they got it.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion because everybody kind of has their own angle, and I don't say this to throw anybody under the bus because there's everybody just has their different angle that they go about things, but there are a lot of companies that a lot of their value proposition is, look, I'm a real estate investor, and I've invested for this time and I've done this for myself. Now I can do the same for you. And a lot of people think that's a really good thing. I always looked at that like, wait, that means that you're doing 2 things, not one thing. Why would I want to work with you? So there's 2 angles to it. But I think a lot of people just assume like, because this person also is a real estate investor, that means that they understand me, which means that they're not going to, give me all these garbage leads because they don't understand what a motivated seller is, or, whatever the case is. But how we've really dialed that in is we're a super data focused company. Right. So more so than me just thinking like, I think a motivated seller would search this on Google and I'm going to target that. And because I'm a real estate investor, I really know that well or something. It's all comes back to the data. And what we find is a lot of the ways that people are doing their marketing feels like it's better because they're investors and they feel like they understand it. But the data doesn't actually support what they're doing. And there's a lot of things that we assume that aren't actually true. And when you really get down to the data, you realize that there's a lot of things that could be done better. So yeah, I'm glad you see the value in that. I see the value in that too. Not everybody does. Some people think that I should be a real estate investor, but I'm fully on the side that like, stay in your lane, do what you do best. You're never going to be the best in the world at 2 things.
Well, one thing, Brandon, too, is that you mentioned, and I've told you this before, out of 150 actually, it's not me telling you, you telling me, at 150 clients, and obviously possibly a lot more, you had, because correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I got. And this is one thing, another reason why I went with you is that you get all the data points from all those clients streamlined. So it's not like you're just looking at my ads, you're looking at across the board how everybody's doing, and you're able to adjust everybody's, ads.
Yeah, so if you look at a normal marketing company, fulfillment has one department. It's
Mm-hmm.
called fulfillment. And the way it works is it's like, hey, I'm doing this for Aaron, and I feel like this will work for Aaron, and I try this different thing for
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, etc. If you compare that to like a tech company, let's just say like a software company, like say Salesforce, right? What is Salesforce doing? Are they building a new Salesforce for every person? No, like there's adaptations, right? They make it flexible, they
Mm-hmm.
make it changeable. But if you look at a service company and a tech company, there's one huge distinction. A service company, the first customer usually gets the best service. The last customer gets the worst service, right? Because it's hard to scale, because you're basically just trying to do the same thing over and over again without making it worse. You look at a
Yeah.
tech company, the last customer gets the best product. The first customer gets the worst product. So we are a service company, right? We're marketing services, but we operate fully like a tech company. We have a whole research and development department where every client we bring on gets like a slightly better service than what those in the past got, because of this aggregate data. And we don't treat it like, we still do, just like you could have in anything, like adaptations on the per client level of what they need. But what we realized is, if we can make decisions based on over 100 times the data, we can make much better decisions than if we were just doing that on a micro level. So all this time that most companies spend running in circles for every individual client they have, we still do a little of that, but then we take a lot of that and we put it all in this pool of all this time that we're going to spend on our macro level product. And that allows us, like, for example, and if you decided today, hey, I want to do a landing page split test, I want to know if A works better than B, you can run that. It might take you 9 to 12 months to actually have enough data to know that A works better than B. It takes us 2 days, because we have so much data running through things. That's just one example, but think of how much farther you can get, how many more iterations you can do if you have so much more data.
One thing I like to do is, again, so you did sign me to a rep, but at the same time, I'm always able to talk to you, but Jeff has been a freaking rock star. I could consider him a friend now. But one thing I always like to do is, I like to not necessarily split test my stuff and see what works. I like to just ask you guys, hey, between all your clients, what is working? So I could just do that. And that's another thing. I think that's what you bring to the table.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We can answer those questions. And a lot of times there's so many things that get implemented that you'll never even know about. That's part of that's one thing about business ownership that's really nice, if you know how to do it right. I feel like, I don't know if you've been through this journey in your business. Yeah, I know I've been through the journey where, like, at some points, like, there's a lot of details going on and I control them. And then there's another point where there's a lot of details going on and I feel like I need to know about them, but I'm not the guy doing the stuff. And then at some point you just look at your business and you're like, wait, that thing improved and I didn't do anything. And that's almost the sweetest thing, right? You're holding people accountable to results at the end, but projects and tasks, you don't hold them accountable to, because those things don't matter to you as long as the results are there.
100%.
And yeah, it's a sweet thing. I think.
I do love that you say that. That is one of our actually core values here, is definitely results driven. Matter of fact, I was talking to some of our sales guys. It's like, I hate being micromanaged. A lot of people don't like to be micromanaged. So what I do is, we set those numbers up to make sure that, hey, if you hit these numbers, you're not going to hear from me. And that's how most people want to live their day to day, right? If you micromanage them, they're not going to do as well. But that's what I do like, having you guys as, having those monthly calls, looking at the numbers, and then just knowing that they're being handled correctly on the back end, because, that's not the biggest thing. The best thing I've, realized as a business owner is delegate. You know what I mean? We are, in my company, and I know a lot of your clients are, we do real estate wholesaling, investing, looking for opportunities for other investors. So that means we're a real estate marketing and sales company. So I run the sales floor. I build a sales team and a great sales culture. And to be truly honest, Brandon, our bread and butter now is you guys. So the whole our marketing side is me just doing a monthly follow-up, and then sometimes a couple of weekly check-ins with my rep, who is very transparent, and he gets back to me whenever I think it was last month. I did a couple quick changes, and I was like, so sorry. I think, but he was like, to me, I thought it was so like a bunch of work. I wanted to change a few things, change a few cities, population wise, etc. And he's like, yeah, that was easy. I thought I was like bugging him, but no, he's like, man, that was easy stuff, man. We're good to go.
I think the word is straightforward, not easy. Right?
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, right? That's why you have experts in your business with different things, right?
Right.
The right person, it's easy. For you, it might not be.
I know. I might be an easier client, I guess. I don't know. Why? Let me ask you this, Brandon. Why PPC? I mean, let's tell the world why that channel for the best results in your real estate company.
Oh, man, it's a good question, and honestly, you're as qualified to answer it as I am. I can give a broad perspective of what I've seen from a lot of companies, and maybe you can tell me, has that been true or has that not been true for you? So PPC's like CrossFit and being vegan, right? Like there's few people that do it.
I was both.
Don't talk about it, right? So like these people who like it like to shout it off the rooftops, and there's a few reasons why. I think the first one is a business just drastically is different when you're running on inbound marketing versus outbound marketing. The level of quality of a PPC lead is just so different from anything else. I believe last time I checked, you were contracting 1 in 7 of the leads or something close to that. Yeah. Of course, it goes up and down on a month-to-month basis. Across our clients, 1 in 11 leads per contract is average. If you can hit 1 in 7, then you're officially average for our top 50% of clients. So you cut out the bad half. So it's like, I'd say 1 in 7 is like a good goal. 1 in 11 is more of a fair expectation, right? But I mean, cold calling, usually you're at like 30, 40, 60, 80, depending on how you're qualifying your leads. It's going to be a lot higher. So that's the first thing. Also, when you're talking to more motivated people, those deal spreads are going to be larger. It also means that it's going to be better for team morale on the acquisition side. And basically, if you look at it, like you start to realize, well, I don't actually need as much staff as I thought I needed to do this many deals per month. So many people get like stuck on these outbound channels and they just get caught in this like 3 to 5 deals per month, which is basically like as much as like one person can do unless they have like a really well built out team. And then they realize scaling that becomes really, really expensive. And that's why inbound's great. So if you're going to do inbound, why PPC? It's the most inbound of all inbound channels. You could say it along with SEO, right? Like search marketing, because all other like quote unquote inbound channels, like a lot of people would say direct mail is inbound. Direct mail, I send you a postcard and then you choose to call me. And you're right, that's more inbound than if I was just calling you at the beginning. But it still is me going to you first and then you calling me back. PPC, you're going to Google to search for a solution and you're grateful to find me because I am exactly what you needed. And you initiated this whole thing. You know what that means? Like that person, like a lot of other channels, you say like, oh, don't market on Christmas Eve. Nobody's going to be selling their house on Christmas Eve. You know what? If someone goes on Google and they search for a way to sell their house on Christmas Eve, that's the one person who is selling their house on Christmas Eve. And they're probably motivated, right? That's just an example. But I guess the point is it's like, it's as far as you can go on the scale of inbound. And it changes businesses for that reason. You realize you need less staff to make things happen. And your deal spreads can be larger. And that's where a lot of people get excited about it.
Oh yeah. A lot of this podcast is going to be me sharing some of my experience as well. And recently, and like you kind of mentioned here, so I think we're at like, it was 7's on a good week, but 9 is like our consistent leads to contract, and which is definitely a big morale booster for our guys to get a contract. Now, it was funny. There was a dip in what we saw, and maybe you talked to Jeff about it, but it was, what was it? I think it was like leads, opportunities. We weren't getting to the leads. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like, this sucks that we're not getting to the leads fast enough, or we're not making contact with the leads. And what was happening is we weren't doing our part thoroughly on labeling what was the lead, because we do get sometimes spam leads. And you have this whole list of of what you should be labeling your lead. Is this a retail lead? Is it out in the rural area lead? Even though you're targeting, you're going to get some of those leads every once in a while. And what we were doing, we were kind of labeling a lot of stuff like opportunity, even though it was this other type of lead that we need. So we did a quick switch on that. I think this was 2 weeks ago. And now my VA is going in, and I made sure my team was able to label the lead correctly. And I really hope that we see that that we are making contact with the leads that we can make contact with. So that was a huge light bulb that I think we're actually on point, because I'm very adamant to our salespeople. I mean, I come out my office, I see a PPC lead come in, I basically ringing the bell, blowing the bullhorn, new lead, who's calling it? Like, I'm huge on getting that right. Another thing that happened recently is what I want to let people know is what I love about your guys' company is I'm able to come in and I'm able to turn the dial up and turn the dial down, right? And that's something that I really love, because now I just need to do my part on building a rockstar sales team. So what happened was I turned the dial up way too high. There was a point there I turned the dial way too high. We were doing really good, and I lost like 2 acquisition guys. Right, boom. They just didn't make the cut. And instead of turning that dial back down so that my current team could handle it, I text Jeff. I was like, Jeff, we ran out of money. He starts freaking out, whatever. And he said, what do you need? And so I was like, I got to turn this way down because we're not getting to the leads fast enough. I'm just burning money here. And so we did turn it down a little bit, and just kind of all transparency, we had it all the way up to 25 grand in ad spend, which was a fantastic place. And now we're back down. We're actually down to 15,000 spend. Because I know a lot of people, that's always been my question before I got into this, like, how much are you spending? I'm sure you get that a lot. How much, if I spend this, what am I getting back? Right. That's a huge question that a lot of people and ask. Right. So that to kind of let people know that's what I'm personally spending at the moment. That's only because our team is now growing. I'm really focused on building a big recruiting machine right now. Maybe if you have maybe I could throw some ads out to you to get us some good salespeople. But so we're building a big old recruiting. I'm putting a recruiter in place, and we're going to be making sure that we're building our team into a large organization. Like by the end of Q4, we want to get 6 guys, right? It's just 6 HBSs, home buyer specialists. And then I'm able to come to Brandon and say, hey, turn that back up. And by the end of the year, I would like to see us spending $50,000 to $80,000. And I've already plugged it into my own calculators. And if we could spend $100,000, we're going to spit out $1 million months. But that's only going to be good fantastic. That is the goal. And so, but that's going to be as good as our sales team. That's going to be as good as, people on the floor. So that is our goal. That is something we're currently working toward, but I'm just glad I have the relationship with you guys to be able to have those dials accessible.
Yeah.
So
some channels are so slow, right? Like if you're doing TV, like give it 2 months in advance to change your ad spend. PPC can be more frequent. Granted, you don't want to be one of those people that's changing your PPC budgets every day because Google doesn't like that, right? And
it does take time. It takes time.
Yeah,
I would say about a week to 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you got to kind of move slowly, whatever direction you move. But what I really like about what you said is, and I don't know why, I think it's just entrepreneurs, we're like black and white people. It's something about the personality. I mean, it's not everybody, right? But like so many are. So we have so many clients that are just like spending 50 grand a month, and then they like pause for a month, and then they're like spending 50 grand a month.
Oh, really?
It's like, it's so good, so much better to like just tone it down.
Yeah.
And instead of going completely crazy when times are good, be more conservative with it. And instead of going fully off when times are bad, pull it back a little bit. I think there's a lot of wisdom to that. You make those slower moves, it'll be better for you long-term. You don't turn off that faucet of marketing and stuff like that. And you got the formula down, right? Like you get a business figured out, I need this many acquisitions guys, because I'm going to spend this much on marketing, this many leads, what you need on dispositions, there's a formula to that. And there's no reason you can't hit those $1 million months if you can get all those things in place. Turns out it's really hard to get all those things in place. That's the trick of business, right? It's as easy as just hiring 5 more guys, right?
Right. No, that's so true. I'm sure you talked a lot. I'm sure you have a lot of good conversations, because what it's going to come down to, you could give us the leads. Now, are we able to convert them? And I know that's one of your biggest challenges with some of the turnover that you might see. Are people just saying these leads, maybe suck, or I'm not putting enough effort to close these leads and so forth. I mean, what are some of the challenges that you've seen of why people might leave this great marketing channel?
Oh, good question. Yeah, there's oh man, there's so many reasons, and I've spent so long studying them because, of course, that's like so important to my company that we retain clients.
Hmm.
One thing I've learned, there's some people you talk to that like say like I have the world's best sales team. We're awesome. We're gonna kill it on these leads. It turns out they like almost always are not the world's best sales team. So
Right.
so and then it's so often it's the people that are like, I hope we'll do well with this. I'm going to try to figure out these processes and all this stuff. Like the really like humble, like process oriented people that end up killing it.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
it's so anyways, basically what I've learned is someone's perception of how good their sales team is has almost nothing to do with how good they actually are. It's like they're completely independent variables. So obviously there's going to be a lot of different things that get people out of this game. And that's where this is like, you'll find, I told you, people who love PPC, they scream it from the rooftops, right? The part that people don't talk about a lot is like probably like 70 to 80 or maybe even 90% of investors that are listening to this right now. And they're like, I've tried PPC 4 times and it hasn't worked for me. Like, what the heck? Right. Because they keep on hearing about all these good things and then they just look at their own business and they're not happy with it. And they just, they don't know what's wrong. And it can be a bunch of different things. So I'll summarize some of the biggest ones. Number one, consistency is so important with PPC and really with any marketing channel. You'll find a lot of people making calls based on really small amounts of data. I just got off a call with a client that made a decision based on 3 weeks of data. They're like, oh, this isn't working, which you can't do.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
not
just getting it going. Like,
yeah, that's just getting it going. Exactly. And basically, if you look at one factor that all of our clients that have like really awesome performance over time have in common, it's that they're patient with their marketing and they understand those highs and lows. You're going to talk to other people who are like, okay, it's going really well this week. And they think that we're the best company in the world and they love PPC and everything's great. And then the next week they're like, I want to cut this. This is horrible. It's like,
oh, wow.
that's a good way to like get gray hair earlier in your life than you really should, is looking at your marketing like on too frequent of a basis, not being patient with it, not letting it grow. ROI takes time at the beginning, right? You got to ramp up the lead flow. And then once you ramp up the lead flow, then you got to get a decent sample size for acquisitions. And so what we tell people is like 6 months, like you gotta take your budget, multiply it by 6 and have that in the bank ready to go, write it off in your mind. Like, this is what I'm putting towards this. And you can't be like questioning that decision at every point along the way. Because the early results don't predict the long-term results. Sometimes early, it's really, really awesome. Sometimes it's really bad. I remember for you said you got like a contract in the first like 3 days or something of the campaign.
I think it was an LA deal. Or
yeah, which is awesome, right? That happens. But then what happens, unfortunately, is people like you go scream for the rooftops. I got a deal in 3 days. This is awesome. And everybody else thinks, well, I didn't get a deal in 3 days. So something must be wrong. Right. So that's something really important to keep in mind. And then beyond that, you just got to get your strategy right. Like, so many people, they fail over and over again because they never understood why they failed in the first place, right? Too many investors, the way that they go is they just like this didn't work, I'm going to try that. That didn't work, I'm going to try this. And they never understand that didn't work because of this reason. I'm going to change this thing and change it. You've got to know your numbers. That's, I think, the most important thing.
Yeah, that's and I think that's definitely a young entrepreneur mindset to have. I've been an entrepreneur now 3.5 years, and I like I said, I was guilty of it. I'm sure even you maybe have been guilty of it when you first started, right? And you're like, all right, let's try this, let's try that, right? And you're absolutely right. Now we've been together, I think with Brandon coming on a year now, and I'm still screaming from the rooftops because, gosh, I mean, contracts and then deals and we are nationwide now. And the cool thing is, and I want to share this with you, Brandon. One thing that we're doing to be able to sell our deals, and I had this guy named Rich Wonders on here. I don't know, maybe you've heard of him, but fantastic individual. And he teaches novations, but he teaches novations on the way he disposes them. He works with private sellers. Sorry, sellers. Not he works with agents in these local markets. And we were putting all of our stuff on the like flat fee services, and we were using InvestorLift, and obviously those are all great. But man, when we started actually going to agents directly and saying, "Hey, I have a deal. Can you, because can you actually list this for us? Because the one, they're not gonna they know the market, they know the lingo, they know the paperwork. So yeah, you might be paying a little bit extra on commissions, but they're gonna get the deal done. So now my dispo guys, all they do is they go they go find these agents, they get the listing agreements, and now you got 20 agents out there per dispo guy. I think we just signed 3 more listing agreements yesterday with these PPC leads that we're locking up nationwide. So then we got all these different agents hunting for buyers, and our dispo guys are now they're just following with agents. And
Yeah.
so we're really excited to see again what you just talked about. What is going to be that, because we just started this a couple weeks ago, and I mean now, and I'm like I said, I think we have like 10, 11 different listing agreements right now. So every time contract comes in, we're just getting that listing agreement. And so what's going to happen is you're going to see them start dropping, boom, 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 right? So we're really excited to see what happens in 90 days from now, because again, that's what it's going to take, right? Let's work on it. Let's get these 90 days. But that's how we're doing it nationwide now, and it's fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome. It falls in line with the concept of who, not how, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the person who can sell this deal? It's the person who knows a lot about that market, and it's not hard to see who the big agent in an area is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Compared to somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing. So that's really neat. It just brought to mind like another reason that people fail with PPC. Like I've had these conversations with clients where it's like, well, they're like, the marketing's not working, right? Because you hold marketing accountable to ROI. And then you look at the metrics and you're like, well, your metrics all look exactly like our best performing clients, except 90% of your contracts fall out.
Oh, yeah.
So that's not the problem, right? There's a lot of, that's especially true with the nationwide model. I know you went through that difficulty of like when you start to move contracts in more areas, it's difficult. And it's the number one disadvantage, if you ask me, of that model. It's just hard to operate a company efficiently in a lot of markets. But if you could pull it off, then the scale potential and the kind of ROI you can get is really impressive.
Right. No, 110%. Let me ask you this, with the nationwide model, what are you seeing your clients target? So one thing that we're targeting right now is we're targeting metro areas with 300,000 population and up, and then saying that some of those states where basically that wholesaling and stuff is illegal. One thing I was thinking about maybe changing in 2 months from now, and let's put it out here on the air, is I'm thinking about targeting 500,000 population up with a medium house price of 200,000. I think right now we're just focused on the population, but I mean we get those 10,000, 40,000 to under $100,000 houses that come in, and they're great. They get it easy, and then you make your $2 to $5 grand. And me being in California, we're not used to that. We're still doing the deals, but it takes the same exact work, right, to make the $5 grand than it does to make our 50 grands, right? Now we want to get our average assignment right now is 17 across the board, and we want to get our average assignment fee up to 30, and I think we will, working with all these agents. But let me ask you this: what would you suggest in something like that? Would you say that would be a good game plan?
It's there's so much to dig into here, and I think us having this conversation like back and forth, I do think it'll be really valuable to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing with locations: like everybody always asks, like, well, what works? What's best? There's so many versions of best that it's like I have, for example, one of our highest ROI clients right now, 25x return on investment.
Wow.
PPC. They're doing really great. Their locations, we have had so many clients fall on their face with the exact same locations that this company is using. And, those same people are asking like, well, what works? How do I get a high return on investment? We could look at this one company doing it and say, well, just do what they're doing. But then it doesn't work for them because everybody has different processes and stuff like that. And you know what that 25x return on investment guy's doing? He's literally just targeting 50 states, everything.
Really? Just everything, like rural areas, everything.
And he's killing it,
Really?
And a lot of people have really failed with that model. And
For sure.
I see why they have failed, because you get a lot of really rural leads and they're hard to work. And so we have clients doing a lot of different things to succeed. And I think there's just some core principles to this. The first principle that we need to understand is that the wider you go, the cheaper your lead cost will be.
Mm-hmm.
The second principle, the locations that you target are going to affect your revenue per lead.
Mm-hmm.
Revenue per lead is a combination of how well do you close those leads into contracts, and then also how well do contracts turn into revenue and how much is that revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes up your revenue per lead. ROI is just revenue per lead divided by cost per lead. So I could have a cost per lead of $200, a revenue per lead of $1,000, because maybe 1 in 10 leads turns into $10,000. So then now my revenue per lead is $1,000. And then I would have a 5x return on investment. So that's how the numbers work. So as you go wider, cost per lead goes down.
Mm-hmm.
But then the question is, what happens to revenue per lead?
Right.
If you can make it the same, yet cost per lead goes down, you just increase your returns. But if revenue per lead goes way, way down and cost per lead only goes down a little bit, then you've just hurt yourself. And everybody has a different way that it works for them. I think your model is more common. Like if you're going to do like that one guy does, like just 50 states, you pretty much like, he only does novations. If you're going to do anything that doesn't end up on the MLS,
there you go.
It's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Turns out there's a lot of small towns with a decent amount of retail buyer activity. Very rarely do they have a lot of cash buyer activity.
Right.
So that's the ticket. If you're going to go really wide, you can succeed. You just have to have a good acquisitions checklist of where you're not like putting things under contract that aren't going to be able to sell. So you have to get really good at that so you don't overwhelm dispo. And then you also have to touch the MLS somehow. You could do that novation, wholesale, flip, whatever you want. Obviously, novations are the most popular because there's very little risk on your side. And it doesn't require like construction crews and all that crazy stuff.
Yeah. And no, you hit it on the head. Like I said, I'm gonna preach it. Like I said, go reach out to the agents, go get those contracts, go make sure you get the proper paperwork and talk to your right attorneys, and then novate them all. Yeah,
there's a lot of value to that. Obviously, you can't just turn any contract into novation, right? So you have to have an acquisitions process that works for that. Everybody has different ways that they do it. I know that you have your own way too. But then that more metro area focused strategy is a great way to have an easier dispositions and a little bit of a harder acquisitions process, right? So you have to think like, what is your strength? Are you a really strong dispo company? Then maybe making acquisitions easy and making dispositions harder plays to your strengths. Or maybe if you're really strong in acquisitions, go into the biggest competitive markets and win contracts, and then dispositions becomes easy for you. And that's a great model too. Now, the reason you're wanting to choose, I'm just going to make an assumption here. You tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. You want to focus on medium home price because that correlates with your assignments. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the assumption is, well, if we're getting a house worth $10,000, we're going to have a hard time making $30,000 that we want to
make. Right. Like we'll still move it. Yeah.
Yeah. We might make 2 or 5 or maybe 10 if we're really lucky. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's true, then I would suggest even a little bit of a different way of thinking about it, which is like, because everybody wants to do this. They want to target based on median home price because that predicts assignments. It turns out it doesn't predict assignments perfectly. Really? And we actually have assignment data in almost every market.
You do. Yeah.
And we can use that. So we, instead of saying like, oh, we want to target this median home price because we think that'll get us these assignments, you just look and see what are our clients seeing in terms of assignments in different markets. And we can just target things that get you the assignments that you want. So it just like removes one of those levels of, maybe things getting messed up. So you can kind of go straight to the source of like, where can we move properties at a decent price? And you could totally do that. You could say, well, now we want like our minimum to be targeting a market that would average about 20. And then we'll have some markets that average 30 or 40. And, altogether it makes 30. You could do that.
See, that's why I like having these conversations, because I think that's just going to make my strategy a lot easier. And that's not changing anything. That's just turning that dial up, baby. So one thing like is that, I mean, that makes complete sense. So no, thanks for sharing that, Brandon. Let's go into your team. When I first, and then I want to go also into your like onboarding, because I want people to understand the value that you bring to companies. So first, so tell us about your team. Where did you start, and where are we at now, and then where do we want to go?
Yeah, fantastic question. So, we started with just me. My first client ever was random comedy club, and then I worked with some tech companies, and I found this real estate company, and that was actually, I don't know if you know Cody Hoffine by any chance. He was
just on the podcast a couple of days ago. Lovely guy.
Oh yeah, Cody's awesome, and a lot of people know him for co-founding Wholesaling Inc. back in the day, and then he sold it since. Now he has Joe Homebuyer, which is fantastic franchising company.
Incredible.
So that's Cody was my first client like 6 years ago or something like that in this real estate space, and had awesome results and got referrals from him and referrals from those people. And one day I looked back at my business and I was like, most of our clients are in real estate. We should probably just do that. And we
I
cut
love
out
it.
everything else. So, so yeah, for a long time it was me, hire someone, build the team a little bit. Now we've got, probably somewhere between 20 and 25, like what I would call core employees. And
Wow.
then there's some, everybody has like some VAs that help with this or that, and stuff like that. That wouldn't be part of that number. But that's kind of like our core team, including like, I mean, a ton of different roles, everything from, people like Jeff, who, who's an account strategist. That's the person who like actually talks with our clients.
Yeah.
We have 4 of those,
Okay.
who I think are all fantastic. And then we have our fulfillment team that's actually like doing the stuff. We have our research and development team that's constantly testing new things. And then, we have our leadership team and, all those different pieces that bring it together.
That's incredible. So you only have 4 of the guys that do the one-on-ones, huh?
Yeah, it's actually like a pretty common misconception across our clients. They think that like most of what we do is what like Jeff does, for example, which is like Jeff just talks to you. Yeah, that's all he does. Like all the stuff that gets done by other people within the company that are more specialists in those things, including like the ad management and stuff like that, which is not a typical agency model. Usually the way it works is like, hey, I have all these smart PPC marketers and you get to have some of the time of one of those people. And that's what you're buying from us. For us, we have like the product that is all just like, if Jeff was a monkey, the product would be the same. Right. Now, Jeff's really important, right? You need someone in that role who's better than a monkey because he's a strategist. He helps you figure out like, should I do this or should I do that? And those things that make a big difference. But he's not in there like adjusting the bids on your campaigns and dialing in the keywords and stuff like that. It's a different skill set. So that's there's only 4 of those people, but so many of our clients assume like that's it. But like, for every minute Jeff spends working with you, there's a lot of minutes spent other places.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, to hear that, we got 4 of the strategists, but at the same time, like I said, we're so focused. We're not only focused on one model, but we're also focused one model in that model of, like I said, online marketing, and then also directed to real estate investors. So again, that's why as far as I understand and know of, you're the number one in the space for this, and you can see that all across the board. So I know when I put my money into your guys' company, I'm going to get that good return as long, right, as I do my job on my end and make sure I'm running a successful company. I want to make sure I hit that on as well. But yeah, what I love about Jeff is, his shirts, man. He has amazing shirts.
Yeah. He's unusual is the word I would use. I wouldn't use the word amazing, but
Well, dude, I know you guys had a mastermind last year. You had the snowboarding thing, and I just had my child. I think we're about to pop him out. And anyways, I'm looking forward to the next one. Yeah, we'll be going to the next one though.
Yeah, I remember you told me I'd like to go, but if the baby comes when I'm gone, then that's going to be really bad.
I gotta ask. Tell us what it's like to be onboarded with you. So if I say, "Hey, Brandon, I want some of these leads. I want to give you my money, and I want you to give me leads so I can make way more and 10x my return." What's the onboarding look like?
Yeah, and you'll you fill in any of the gaps with what your experience was like. So the way it'll work generally is like, obviously you have to go through like the initial conversations with us, and we have to figure out if this is a fit. And we do regularly turn away business of people that we don't think are a good fit. We're not just one of those companies. It's just like, hey, everybody come work with us. Because I know if like people work with us and it doesn't work out, like it doesn't help us, right? So if you don't have your sales process ready for this or something, then we don't want you yet, right? we want success when we work together. So we'll ask you some questions and we'll see like, are you really a good fit for this? If you are, then we can help figure out some of those things, like maybe what kind of budget we should work with, what kind of channels we should work with, et cetera. And then we officially start the onboarding. We'll send you a list of all the information we need, access to accounts, information, all that kind of stuff. We'll have a kickoff call where we talk strategy and set goals based on specific numbers of what we're trying to achieve. We try to understand exactly what you need. Then we do all the setup on our side, and then we have our go live date. That's when ads start. And then from that point onward, it's just that kind of usually monthly. Like if you're going to be spending $100,000, probably need more than once monthly, right? So it depends on like, what is the appropriate amount for the spend, but monthly is most common across our clients, where we like check in, re-strategize, all that kind of stuff from that point onward.
I like that. And just, I really want to put this out there, and because I went through the same thing as well, not dramatically, but if you do decide to move forward with Brandon or any type of company, there is that onboarding, and it could take a little bit of time because, the right pieces are getting put in the right spots. So, we know that you're doing your job on the end. So if you do, make sure to have a little patience behind you. Because I'm sure you get blown up all the time when people first start, because they think like, why are my ads not up? Why are my ads not up? And because there's a process, right? So,
oh yeah. And we should be able to tell you kind of roughly what that should take. Depending on, so for us, there's a couple of factors. One is like, even if everything goes perfectly, it takes a certain amount of time to get this done, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other factor is like, what if I only have so many people on my onboarding team and we've already committed to onboarding somebody else or a number of people at a certain time? They can't work on your project and that other one because we only have so many hours, right? So sometimes we get like, you could call it a waiting list or whatever the case is, where it's like, we can't, we can't get everybody started all at once if we have a lot of interest at a given time. So I usually like anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to get set up is pretty realistic for most people. There's going to be those exceptions where things go over. One of our biggest metrics that we measure as a company is our percentage of onboardings that go live on the time that we said they would. We'll give you a date at the very beginning. And we measure how many get past there. We target somewhere between 80 and 90%. So some of them will go a little bit over. Most of them should go live when we tell you it will be
That's
that
awesome.
2 weeks or a month or so from now.
That's super dialed in. So you're telling me that when I get to the point of, and again, it will happen, $100,000 a month, because we'll have a rockstar sales team built up here. Should I be meeting about once a week?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on.
Should I be blowing up Jeff? Jeff, what's up, man?
I mean, obviously, as you spend more money, so a lot of those meetings, like a lot of our clients are just like, how many meetings do I get? Like, I want as many meetings as I can have, as if they're like, that's something that you want infinite of. I don't know about you, like as a business owner with my vendors, I don't want to meet with them any more than I have to, right? The goal is to meet with them like the right amount, right? So what happens if you meet too frequently is there's not that much changing in between, and you don't have enough data. And then you just kind of think like, oh, maybe we're seeing this, but we don't really know. We don't really have enough data to know if we're seeing that. Let's talk about it next week. And like, it's just overall, like there's just not enough like decision-making happening. And then if you wait too long, what happens is bad things continue for too long, right?
Yep.
We have clients that we cannot get a hold of. We'll call them like 30
really
times and they don't answer.
Oh my god!
No, they still pay the bill every month. By the way, Cody's one of those. I went multiple years without talking to Cody. And I'm like, come on, man, like we gotta figure this out. We need to, and if you're just
yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, aren't you like? But now, I mean, I think obviously you guys definitely teamed up on Joe Homebuyers and everything right now.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, what a great partnership.
Oh, totally. Yeah, 100%. And super, super appreciative to them.
I'm just glad he finally got back to you to get that going.
Yeah, he finally, for the first 2 years we worked together, I didn't talk to Cody once in between like the kickoff and the talk. And 2 years later, he called me up and he's like, by the way, this is our best marketing channel. So
there you go.
Don't use that as a case study. It goes wrong when you don't communicate with your agency more often than it goes right.
Well, it was you were reaching out to him. He wasn't reaching out back. So that's one thing. Right?
I'd bring cookies to their office trying to get a hold of them. Still couldn't. So that's so that there's like that right balance, right? Because you could have like, let's just say you're targeting the wrong markets and that's causing problems, something like that, and like nobody looks at that, nobody thinks about that for 3 months. You could have burned 3 months.
Exactly.
So you need enough data to make decisions. So anyways, the frequency will change a little bit. And it also depends on how involved you want to be in like the details versus delegating them. So yeah, it's you find the right balance. But yeah, for most of our clients, it's monthly. But we do have. I'm thinking we have a couple clients spending into the 6 figures now. We do meet weekly with those clients.
Wow, that's incredible, and that's I mean, you should definitely be constantly looking at your numbers, looking at the leads flow and stuff like that. I mean, there have been weeks, where it was just low, right? And I will reach out to Jeff and hey, what's going on? Everything looking good? Because I want to make sure everything's looking good. I think out of probably the 10 times I've reached out to him because of certain situations, I think one of the times he was like, "Oh, yep, you're right. Let's tweak this real quick," and boom, 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 we fixed it. So again, but that was a good example of yes, you need to be make sure you're watching those things, so that you guys could do your job on correcting and troubleshooting things when most of the time it's just like, no, you're good, Aaron. You're good.
Yeah, the thing is, there's a lot of natural fluctuations. So
Yeah.
it is crazy common that our clients are like, hey, leads are down this week, and we look at it, it's like, if we change something, we would probably ruin it. So like we don't want to
Right.
like there's not enough data to suggest that there's a problem, and then usually it just passes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do have some clients that they start to like learn, right? They're like, oh, leads were down, because just picture like leads are just this flow, like up and down,
Yeah.
like this, right? So if every time it's low, you reach out, it'll get higher after that, because that's what happens when you're at the bottom, right? So we have some clients that over time they start to think like, oh, if you don't have leads, then you just call Jeff, and Jeff presses the get more leads button that you were forgetting before.
That's
and
what I thought happened.
Better. Which it's not usually how it works. I mean, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, there's something that could be adjusted here, but I mean, it's our job to be on top of those things, whether you're telling us or not. But there's other things like, hey, I'm getting leads in areas that I can't disposition or something like that that we're not going to see. Right. Like we don't have those numbers, or they would take a long time to play out. So it's kind of just like about everybody watching like the things that matter for them. But yeah, we have, I don't know what to do with some of our clients that are a little bit like, they're just always playing that game. Well, yeah. It doesn't bother me, but like, I don't know. Sure. I feel the need to tell them every time, like, okay, just so you know, this didn't change anything, but you will see the leads go up, but that's not because we changed anything. It's just going to happen anyway.
Well, no, it's kind of, and it's what I said earlier, it's by making sure you label the lead correctly. So when we do get the leads, you guys are able to do your job and making sure what's happening. And again, that's what I was doing. What I found out what was wrong is we weren't labeling the leads correctly. So like I said, we're changing that, and we should see a lot better numbers, because I think we were putting like everything like opportunity, everything and like nothing. Right. So like, but you have like 10 to 20 more options that these leads should be going into. So that was totally my fault. And I'm glad we're fixing that.
Yeah. Well, let's even talk about what that is, because I bet you some people listening don't even know what you're referring to. Yeah. So one of the most important things for any marketing is that you're optimizing within the channel. And to explain what I mean by that, like if you're to compare it to something that people understand, direct mail, right? If I'm just like spending all my money on direct mail, but I'm not looking at like which postcard produces what or which list is producing what, I just know I spent this much on direct mail and I got a 5x return. What a lot of people don't realize is that often means that you spent half your money on something that gave you a 0x return and half your money on something that gave you a 10x return, right? But you have to track all those things to those details. So what that's called when it comes to PPC is called end-to-end reporting or closed loop reporting. So what we do is we put all of your leads into a system. We ask you to give us feedback on each one of those leads and how it was. And it is like, I'll admit it's a pain in the butt, but it is like our secret to success. Because then we understand like every little thing about your campaigns and how that's affecting performance. Especially when we have a lot of that data across our clients, we can understand like, oh, hey, this keyword has a lower lead to contract rate, so we should probably dial back there. Or we can start to train Google's algorithm to find more of the highly motivated sellers and all those kinds of things. So that's kind of what you're referring to. Anybody else doing PPC probably is not familiar with that, because most agencies don't do that. But that's an example of something that we do that makes a pretty massive difference for our clients. Not just the fact that you do that, making a difference for you, but also that our other clients do that, helping us understand and basically have more data than anybody else does in the industry to understand how to change your account.
Yeah, love it. Hey, again, Brandon, I thank you so much for hopping on here and spending this time out here. I know you're a man of, again, you got a whole company to run. You decided to come on here to share some value. So Brandon, let us know, where can we find you? Where can we get maybe an onboarding or consultation call? Let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, great question, Aaron. So the best thing to do is reach out to us via our website. That's batemancollective.com. You'll get a link. You'll get a calendar to sign up on right there with somebody from my team, and you can talk with them and see if this is a good fit for you. If anybody wants to reach out to me personally, you can do that through whatever social media you want. My email is brandon@batemancollective.com. Email me if you want, and I'll get back to you. But yeah, I'm super eager to help. There's a couple people that we're very relevant for. So obviously, if you're looking to get into more inbound marketing, we're a great fit. If you're one of those investors that is listening to this and thinking like, what the heck are they talking about? PPC doesn't work. I've tried it. But you don't actually know what went wrong, or maybe you think you know, but you're just making things up, which is really common. I find in a lot of my conversations, you're like, it's because the agency was bad. Like, but you don't know how the numbers, you don't understand how it all works and stuff. We do, like, one of the biggest value adds we do is a complimentary audit, where basically we'll dig through all of your metrics ourselves. We'll give you our perspective on like what's going on in your account, what we would change, how much of a difference that could make. And we've seen people transform their businesses with these audits. I mean, you can take that information, do whatever you want with it, or maybe that can give you the confidence to work with us. And either way is fine by us. But yeah, if you've ever failed at PPC or you're failing right now, definitely reach out.
Incredible value. Thank you so much, Brandon. We'll see you next time on here at the Real Estate Block podcast.
Thank you, Aaron.